Battlefield 2042 is shaping up to probably be the most controversial battlefield since Hardline. BF 2042 is introducing specialist characters, each with their own unique gadgets and gear. By doing so, they eliminated the typical class-based system that's been the mainstay of the Battlefield games. However, this also means that there has been far less reliability from random teammates having ammo or medic bags to give out. In the beta, there also didn't seem to be a way to grab ammo off the backs of teammates, like in Battlefield 5. I do think this needs to return ASAP. Having specialist characters designed for any situation is a neat way to play the game, at least at first. As Battlefield players are spoiled by constantly having these kind of supplies nearby, there's not really a lot of ways for players to get supplies of their own. Even when getting a kill on a player in the beta, you barely get any ammo back from the enemy's player's kit. As Level Cap has mentioned, and I did not notice, there weren't any ammo stations on the objectives in Orbital. So that's another thing that needs to come back as well. More so if the specialist system is going to be forced in. There's definitely two sides to this argument, and Battlefield players will want the original system to stay in place. As far as the Battlefield community goes, I struggle to be all in on any gaming community as is. I kind of do enjoy the specialist, but the only reason is because I have an option to still be a medic while carrying a rocket launcher. When I played Battlefield 4 on the large conquest maps, I was basically stuck as playing engineer if I wanted to play objectives. Why? Well, because of all the attack choppers, LAVs, and tanks that were running about. I'd rather play medic and have an infantry focused build, but I just found myself being stuck and having no way to counter a tank as a medic. So in the end, I don't actually need a specialist, but if every class had gear that could be used to combat vehicles, I'd most likely be fine with that. And again, also with the ability to passively get ammo and health from other players like in Battlefield 5, I cannot stress that enough. So with every game that includes specialists or operators, it typically ends up that there's some that are outright worthless, and they are designed for a very specific gimmick and not much else. On the other hand, you have specialists that encourage aggressive playstyles and can be very difficult to counter. We got to see the other half of the specialist roster for the BF 2042 launch, starting with Navin Rao. I probably did not say that name right. He has the hacking ability to hack enemy equipment and interact with map-specific objects that could potentially grief or trap enemy players, probably friendly players as well. His trait is when he kills a hacked enemy, it will reveal nearby enemies to the player. It seems a little clunky having to hack a player, hope they don't see you while you hack them, then get the kill on them to reveal enemy players. With that said, I don't like any kind of ability or trait that tracks enemy players. My question for this would be, do AI enemies count? Because that would really suck if a brainless AI gets killed in this manner and now you're marked because of it. I think the better version of this would be to expose the enemy squad. So if a squad is actually working together and you kill one of their members, you'll know where that squad is. Again, it isn't ideal, I'd rather not have it, but in the chaotic world of Battlefield, I see this making the most sense, and being the better way for this to work. Next we have Dozer Santiago, whose specialty gadget is the riot shield. I personally hate riot shields in any game and I'd rather not have them. I'm beginning to sense a pattern here. Anyways, in the grand scheme of things, a riot shield isn't a big deal in your regular conquest mode. However, in an infantry-centered mode like TDM or Domination, this can be very annoying to deal with. It seems I'm going to have to pull out the old thermite grenades for this one. The specialist also has a blast-resistant trait, allowing him to take less explosive damage and recover health faster. So he is being built as a tank-type specialist. I'm not sure how safe he'll be behind that shield when a rocket is launched at him though, time will tell. After this we have Sundance, who is the wingsuit character. You know, the one they've constantly been showing in any promotion they can, but at the same time not have it available for the open beta. Aside from the very situational wingsuit, Sundance does have a better specialty, which are smart explosives. A small assortment of grenades that can be thrown and auto-tracked to an enemy. These grenades are anti-armor, EMP, and scatter grenades. I know some people may have an issue with this specialty, but for me, as I had said earlier, I'm perfectly fine with these. Sure, they may need to be tweaked and rebalanced, but anything that gives infantry players an extra tool to deal with vehicles is just fine. Next up is probably the most controversial character, Jisu. The specialty for this character is a scanner that can reveal nearby enemies sitting behind cover. This kind of perk isn't anything new and we have seen it before. However, I don't think this fits with Battlefield at all, not even in Hazard Zone. It can work in games like Apex Legends, but even then that system does have problems. Along with a very quick movement and a long time to kill, it fits the Apex Legends playstyle. Here, however, with a lower time to kill and a lot more chaos, this is basically giving the player free kills. One thing is having a 2D map that can show where players are, and be familiar enough to understand where the enemy is in relation to the map. It's another thing to actually see the full character model. Unlike Navin's abilities, I don't have any suggestions to nerf this operator, other than to completely change that specialty. The passive, however, is kind of okay, where if any enemy player hits a specialist, they are automatically pinged. It is a bit of a casual-sided trait, but I do have an easy way to nerf this one, which is to make the ping last 3 seconds, instead of the regular length of time. This is a passive and you're rewarding your player for getting shot, so make the reward very temporary. Of course, if the enemy player continues to hit Specialist, that timer will reset over and over again, and the passive will be effective enough. Outside of this, I can see this operator being targeted heavily in this current state, and make no mistake, if I do see someone running this operator as is, they're my first target out of the bunch. And lastly, we have Constantine Angel, who's another medic. This time he uses defibrillators to revive players along with restoring their armor. Kind of odd that defibs are just a specialist gadget and not something any medic can use. Anyways, his specialty is a loadout crate that gets airdropped into the field. This allows him to swap out his entire loadout for something that may be more useful in that given moment, such as a sniper or SMG loadout and so on. Overall, I don't find this character to be a problem. Even in an infantry-centered match, those games should be moving at such a fast pace that it would be more difficult to use the crate than it would be to simply grab someone else's gear. Maybe it's more useful in Hazard Zone where you may not get to loot other players. I do think that's most likely where this character will spread his wings, as this loadout is very similar to the Apex Legends Lifeline. Overall, I do think each of these operators are unique enough to be used, however some should be reworked. The problem I have with any game that has specialists, operators, heroes, etc. is that you can never tell what the next operator will bring. So imagine Jisu was not a part of the starting roster, only to be included a few months later. You may be able to see my line of thinking with this. What would stop DICE from including specialists that are equipped with GC gear, such as a grenade launcher, a chain gun, a juggernaut suit, and who knows what else. In this case, the phrase, "the possibilities are limitless," is not a good thing. There's already talk of people playing Battlefield 2042 only for the Portal mode, which would allow players to bring back the class-based systems and fine-tune the game to the experience they want, which is what Battlefield should have done 10 years ago. No, I'm not kidding. This is the problem with current AAA games. They have been designed to get as many people on board as possible, which means the longtime fans of Battlefield will have to either cope with these changes, make their own in Portal, or go back to a previous game or play something else, while these changes are brought in to bring new players to the franchise. It's all but confirmed, but around the rumor mill, this has been a game designed with Call of Duty players in mind. No, I do not count myself as one of those players. If anything, I've been very vocal in my opinions of Call of Duty, and this is not my first Battlefield. Both of these franchises have their own problems, and play very differently. To DICE's credit, including Portal is the best move they could have done. It's probably the only thing they could have done to appease longtime players for now. I'm glad it's in the game, and I do hope DICE can continue to expand on it, which it seems like they will. In regards to what changes were made for Battlefield 2042, DICE did not need to reinvent the wheel. There wasn't a need for a specialist to have unique equipment. This could have been simply skins for the classes you want, then just mix and match and have a second equipment slot to bring with you, rather than it be tailor-made specifically for that specialist. This would bring back the tried and true class-based system, along with all the added improvements of the previous games. I know people like Blue Drake who say that the game itself is more or less a rehash and not worth the $60. An argument could be made that it is on the same engine, using the same type of animations, assets, and so on, and with Portal mode we can use things that were on previous games, and to a point I do agree with this. However, what I can't say about DICE and their games is that they support their games for more than 1 year. Unlike the Call of Duty series, where it is a blatant cash grab every year, DICE supports their games for 2 or 3 years and maybe more, constantly making changes, adding content, and giving the community more things to do. That alone is worth a $60 price tag for me, knowing that the game will be supported for more than 365 days. So long as the starting base game is a solid experience and I can enjoy the game from day one and kind of tell where the direction of the game is going, I'm fine with supporting it. Battlefield 2042 kind of falls in a gray area with that last part, but I do feel the game offers a lot and enough for a $60 purchase. There has been a long-running debate as to how much a new game should cost and whether it should be more or less than $60. My short answer is that it depends on the game. If it's a multiplayer-centered game with a planned expiration date of 1 year, then yeah, it's not worth $60 to me regardless what else it has. And if the game is a single-player story-based game, sure, it can be $60 on launch. A game like that has a lot of people, actors, and overall effort to carefully construct and create something that can be enjoyed. Some games like the Assassin's Creed series, where they were being released every year or so, is up for debate. Watch Dogs, Far Cry, and the modern Ghost Recon games can be thrown in there as well. In this section of games, I'd say so long as the game is very polished and has visuals and graphics designed to push the industry forward, and doesn't look worse or on par with the previous title, it most likely is worth the $60 price tag. It doesn't mean I like the price, but as many others have said before, don't buy the game if you don't support it. I'm going to include the price tag to be one of those things as well. If I don't think the game is worth $60, or if I'm willing to wait, then yeah, I will wait for the game to be on sale. Unless or until I can do this for a living, I'm not typically buying games day one. The only exception would be if I do think the game will be fun and I can stream and record and make content with it daily, or I just think that the game is actually good at launch. So those are my current thoughts on the new info we got from Battlefield 2042. There were some other things announced as well, such as a UI overhaul and other similar features. We got to see that there were more than just 3 optics in the game, etc, etc. I may or may not address that later. As I can say, the open beta did not have these systems in mind. I already said my piece on the beta, but just for clarity, that build was simply to show that the game exists and it's a Battlefield game. Overlays, UI, animations, etc. were not finalized for that build. I can forgive the beta for that. But I can't really forgive a beta for feeling like a small crumbled slice, giving a very limited experience, thinking it's okay, and that was enough for players to decide whether or not the game's worth buying at launch. So until then, and until we get more news, I am Mr. Rain, and I will see you guys next time.